Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Lunch Table Podcast. And in this episode, we're reviewing episode 4 of Silo. Dylan is going to lead this one. He has a lot to break down. But without further ado, Dylan, why don't we get your thoughts?
Yeah, this series continues to impress me and amaze me with, all the character development. And I love Rebecca Ferguson in this episode. It's very centered around her and Deputy Marnes, played by Will Patton. Yeah, in the very beginning, coming off the last episode, the mayor, of course, was poisoned. And the first shot is actually a child hospitalized. And it's interesting because I thought, I thought this was going to be the mayor. But it's a flashback scene to Juliette Nichols' childhood. And we get snippets of her childhood in this episode. And it was really interesting to see, where she was before and then present day, where now she has become the sheriff of the silo. And it was just so amazing seeing her transformation and why she's so stoic and mistrusting to people, because she had a very hard life. Her mother and her brother passed on when she was just a young child, and her father, played by the doctor, he was very involved in his work, so he never really had time to take care of her. And there's a lot of scenes where she has to do a lot of chores and a lot of things to take care of herself, so she's very independent from an early age. And we see her relationship with Walker in mechanical and how she got started there. So yeah, overall it was wonderful seeing her origins in a way.
Oh, that's cool. Did the silo look a little bit different, or kind of the same shit, different smell?
Pretty much the same. There wasn't too much differentiating. So it's pretty much the silo doesn't evolve much. I guess in a way it's the people that evolve, which is really interesting. It's how do they kind of adapt in this environment that doesn't really, change much. And Will Patton was also great in this episode too, seeing him kind of change too, because he's up until now he's been pretty firm and for the law. And now he's kind of breaking down because he's stuck on this whole death from the mayor that he had feelings for, and he's going to different houses, blaming a lot of people for her death. And we see that he's also not sure of who to trust as well. So Juliette offers him kind of a temporary alliance. And she's like, well, I'll help you figure out who killed the mayor if you help me figure out who killed George. And we see that he's also visited by Common's character, the judiciary guy. And, he thinks he's on his side, but we're not sure because, they want to also replace Juliette as the sheriff. But I think he's kind of on the fence because this was also Holston's pick, and he probably wants to respect his, his final wishes. But at the same time, it's also for the good of the silo too. So I'm not sure. And he also wants to solve the mayor's murder as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of weird how, we, as the audience, we kind of know that it's probably coming from the judiciary people. So I wonder when they're going to get to it and actually try to see the main head. Is there any talks in this episode about we got to go to this section to meet these people?
Well, the IT guy sworn in Juliette. That was kind of a funny exchange because she was like, "Oh, I didn't think you'd be the guy swearing me in because you thought I stole this hard drive."
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of like a middle finger to him. So she's kind of an unorthodox sheriff in a way. She's not for the, what do they call the upper top people, because she comes from the bottom, so she doesn't have the respect for, these very high class society people. And they probably, feel the same way because she's from mechanical all the way at the bottom. So that there's already a level of distaste and mistrust between them. And it was also interesting seeing how the other police officers reacted to Juliette, because there was that one assistant lady and she kind of didn't Juliette just showing up, and all of a sudden she's the boss, and she just came from the bottom of the silo, and now all of a sudden she's running things. And she's like, "Oh, well, do you guys eat the same food as us up here?" So it shows us more of that class system, opposition, where everybody kind of has a high regard of themselves and also a distaste for people of the lower levels. It's interesting, just to see that level of classism.
So I guess there are no toxicity judiciary people then yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still a mention of Judge Meadows, who we haven't met yet. But I guess that character is still kind of running things in the shadows.
Judge Meadows, very female centric. A lot of leaders here that's like female. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and they still want I think that guy Billings as the mayor, or I'm sorry, the sheriff. So they're still trying to get their pick in. So the last scene, I guess, is the most important to talk about, because Marnes goes back to his apartment. He's kind of drunk, and he's kind of shitting on himself, and he feels bad. But what happens to the mayor? And he's like reminiscing about their last talk together, and there's an assassination attempt on his life.
Oh wow!
And this guy goes to his apartment, but we don't see him killed yet. That's the thing. So it's a cliffhanger. So I'm wondering, like, did he actually die? I was like, I feel kind of bad now, because like all the characters I love in this show get killed off.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. We don't know yet. So what are your predictions?
Well, based off that, yeah. Well, I got a feeling he is going to be hospitalized, and probably Iain Glen's character is going to take care of him. And so, of course, she's going to check up on him, and then Juliette's going to check up on him, and then she'll see her father, because I forgot to ask if she's seen her father yet or not. I'm sure she hasn't. So that'll be really interesting to see that interaction again after all these years. I think that's what's probably going to happen. But again, I think from the last predictions, I remember I said something along the lines of, like, I feel like everybody they are kind of in the secret society, and whenever they're called upon, they'll do something for the greater good. So I got a feeling that Juliette father has some answers that she needs, and so that's like the perfect person to ask. But it's going to be really complicated, because that relationship is complicated from the start, and now she's really on her own too, so she really has to use her old tactics that she used in the bottom up there. And I think it's going to throw a lot of people off, because they haven't seen that, because they're not used to people at the bottom actually like leading on the top. So it's going to be a really interesting dynamic. That's my predictions. What is yours and your rating?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think she's going to rattle the cage a bit in the next episode and coming episodes. Well, firstly, she found George Wilkins' file. It was in the ceiling vent, so I think Colston like hid it, probably because he knew that they were gonna destroy his file. So she already kind of has, this evidence building, or like a case against, the higher ups. And also Walker fixed the VCR recording. So I kind of wonder, like, what's on the tape? Will it show like some incriminating evidence? Like maybe like the origins of the silo, because we still don't know much of like how the silo started. So I'm really interested to see like, what she finds on that tape. But overall, great episode, great character development. I thought, like I said, Rebecca Ferguson was awesome in this. If I had to rate, I'd probably give a 9 out of 10.
Cool. All right. Well, why don't you take us away?
Well, guys, thank you so much. Check out our other Silo episode by episode reviews if you haven't. We are also reviewing Citadel on Prime, and Succession and Barry on HBO as well. So yeah, guys, stick around. Until then, thank you for having lunch with us.
I'll see you guys.